I was unhappy with my performance against Omega last time, so I needed a rematch. Just like last time, I wiped out his Ribbon and his Smeargle with ease. He was trying to set up evasion with his Ribbon, but it was too late. With his Smeargle, I don't even know what he was trying to do, cause it's always so easy to take out. So then, Omega sent in Scizor, and I Volt switched into Hawlucha. Once I switched into Hawlucha, Scizor did Swords Dance, so I can increase its attack stat. I then obliterated it with a Flying Press. Gardevoir was sent out next, and that put me in a little bit of a situation because Hawlucha is part fighting type. So I switched out to Trevenant, and he was destroyed by a Hyper Voice. So I switched back into Rotom Wash, and I use Hydro Pump, which does a really good amount of damage. A Psychic from Gardevoir was able to take me out, so I sent in Clefable, and was able to tank a lot of the hits. I used Dazzling Gleam, but it wasn't enough to take it out. This turn, I tank a Hyper Voice, and then I use Dazzling Gleam and take out Gardevoir. If you remember from last time we fought Omega, Clefable was a big problem. So here's where the battle starts to get really difficult. Clefable is able to tank a lot of the hits and starts using Minimize, so I won't be able to hit it a lot. As the Minimize keeps going on and on and on, and I take a lot more damage, I start to lose a little hope, because Clefable was able to wipe my whole team out last time with stored power, so I did not want to get those stat boosts, and I already started missing attacks, so I used Wish. I was able to heal off all my damage with Wish, but Clefable started going into Cosmic Power, which meant a stored power was coming very, very soon, and I got a little worried. Since Clefable wasn't my best bet, I switched into Donphan, and the Cosmic Powers kept going on and on. And this right now is the single turn that saved this battle. Omega had all those stat boosts, and since I was able to use Roar and switch into Salamence, Clefable lost every single one of them, meaning Omega had to start all over again. And now, as you could see, Clefable started using Minimize again to get that evasion back up to the 3 that it was. You can also see that Dazzling Gleam is also doing a good amount of damage. If you saw before, Dazzling Gleam was not doing that much with the combination of the Cosmic Powers and the resistance to Fairy that Clefable has, but it does somewhat more because of no Cosmic Power. And now, since the evasion is to the level that Omega needed, he switches right into the Cosmic Powers, and then uses Stored Power, which barely does anything. Now, as you saw in the last turn, Omega was getting a little impatient, and he started to use the stat boosts and Stored Power before they were even up to the full level. So, I got a little scared and switched out to Donphan so I can get that Roar ready. I protected a Stored Power, and then he hit me with one, and then I used Roar and dragged out Salamence. And once again, Omega has to get all those stat boosts up again, and he was probably running a little low on PP at this point. I switched into Hawlucha and started using Acrobatics, and then Omega switched back into Clefable, and it did some sizable damage with Acrobatics. In this fight, we've only seen 3 of Omega's 4 moves, and if you remember from the last fight we had with Omega, there's a 4th one, Soft Boiled, which is Clefable's probably single most trolly move. So right when I was nearing the kill, Omega used Soft Boiled, and then I missed an Acrobatics, and now he's getting the evasion back up. So I go straight into a Flying Press, and it does a whopping 53% of Clefable's full health. I then do another attack, and it gets down to 4 health. And then Omega uses Soft Boiled again. I go for another Flying Press, and it gets to the yellow zone of health. Now throughout all this, I was not paying attention to the stat boosts, I was just trying to wipe it out. So then, without even realizing it, Clefable uses Stored Power, defeating Hawlucha, our MVP for the game. So then, I switch into Donphan, who suffers the exact same fate. Once I switched into Weavile, 2 very bad moves occur. The first move is that Omega switches into Salamence, who is weak to Ice types. Then he switches into Clefable, whose only attacking move, Stored Power, does not affect Weavile. So, I was able to wipe it out with an Icicle Crash. Clefable's very last move was it using Cosmic Power to try and tank the hit. This next fight is with Any Reason, and I used my Xenoblade themed team. In the first turn, I switch into Ricky, my Azumarill, and he switches into Gyarados. I tried to use Ice Beam to take advantage of his flying typing, and then I switched into my Sceptile, Dunban. I used Leaf Blade, which almost took him out. Then he used Crunch and wiped out Dunban. This Mega Gyarados is very important later on. He is not able to use Mega Rayquaza because he can only have one Mega. I switched into Shulk my Aegislash and used Shadow Sneak. He sends out Rayquaza, and I switch back in to Ricky from Shulk. Ricky's Fairy typing allows him to be immune to Outrage. Any reason then switches in to Celesteela, who is Steel type. Steel is one of Fairy's weaknesses, so I switched into my Scizor, Fiora, and he switches back into Rayquaza. I then Mega Evolve my Scizor and go straight into the attacks. Now that I think of it, I probably should have used Swords Dance a couple times. Fiora is almost destroyed, but so is Rayquaza. The Outrage is able to be tanked by Fiora, and Rayquaza is now down. Any reason then switches in to Giratina, who uses Draco Meteor and wipes out Fiora. From that defeat, I switch into my Conkeldurr, Reyn, because now it's Reyn time. Reyn was able to eat up a Dragon Pulse like it was nothing, and wipe out a lot of Giratina's health with Earthquake, but it's not able to tank Draco Meteor as well. I stupidly used Thunder Punch, and then he switches out to Trevenant. So then, I decide to switch into a Ghost type, so I switch into Shulk. He uses Shadow Ball, but it barely does anything. I'm able to dent Trevenant's health with Shadow Sneak very much, and he uses his Citrus Berry. This time, Shulk is not able to eat up that Shadow Ball like he did the previous time. After a fatal Shadow Sneak, he uses his Citrus Berry, which heals him up quite a bit. So then, I use Shadow Sneak again, taking it out. Any reason then sends back out Giratina, and I use Shadow Sneak, almost defeating it. And Draco Meteor almost defeats Shulk. So then, he returns it and sends out Celesteela, and then he uses Flash Cannon, which defeats Shulk. He then gets his special attack, Beast Boost, and I send out Charla, my Blissey. At this point, I had lost a lot of hope, and I kept spamming Dazzle and Gleam, just awaiting my death. Then I got the idea to use Soft Boiled. I was able to tank an Acrobatics, and then I used Soft Boiled, restoring half of my health. I then protect against the incoming Acrobatics. I then thought to use Wish to switch in on Reyn and gain health on him, and I tried it, but Reyn fell in battle from an Acrobatics. I then switch in on Ricky. Ricky didn't even have a chance. He's wiped out in one hit with a Flash Cannon. Now, all that's left is Charla, my Blissey, and pretty much all hope is lost. Acrobatics nearly destroys it, and Dazzling Gleam does nothing, so I just accept my fate. And Charla was defeated, and Any Reason won the battle. First of all, our final battle is against Parlo the Worst, and second of all, I'm sorry about the bad quality, it didn't record properly. So first of all, Parlo sends out Varlo's Broom, his Smeargle, and I send out my Smeargle, and he's able to spore me. He uses Geomancy, and I wake up and spore him, and we both get our Moody boosts. I then use Ingrain, and he's still asleep. We both get our Moody boosts afterward. The next turn, he wakes up and uses Geomancy again. Then, I use Baton Pass and switch to Vaporeon. He then gets his Moody boost and uses Geomancy, and I use Acid Armor. Parlo then uses Baton Pass and switches in on Eevee, and I use Aqua Ring. After he switches in to stay awake, he uses Extreme Evo Boost, and I use Baton Pass into my Espeon. I could have used my other Pokemon and Baton Passed into them to amplify the stats even more, but with Extreme Evo Boost, things were getting urgent, so I used Espeon and kept using Stored Power against Psych Boy. Like I said, Espeon is not amplified to its full power, so Psych Boy couldn't have been an OHKO like I anticipated. Parlo then Baton Passed into Varlo's Broom. I tried to hit it with Stored Power, but his evasion stat was raised up and he kept getting Moody boosts, which was a big problem. Then he used Spore, and he must have forgotten that Magic Bounce is on Espeon. So he got Magic Bounced, and he was Spored himself, and I was able to get a free hit on him. and he hung on with his sash. Getting that little speck of red off of his health should have been really easy, but it wasn't because of that increased evasion stat. I realized I shouldn't be using stored power because I'll waste its PP, so I started using Dazzling Gleam, and it still didn't hit, after like 3 turns, and he was still getting boosts. But then he woke up, and Baton passed into Fast Boy, and Dazzling Gleam nearly kills it. Of course, the one turn he switches out. Then, Sword Power misses again and he uses Sword Stance and switches into Omelette with Baton Pass. And Omelette is the big sweeper. It's a reference to my last video, when he swept my whole team with a Dunsparce. It was very bad, but I got a critical hit on it, so it was pretty good in the end. Now that his main attacker was gone, he only had these other guys who were boosting up his stats, so now the big sweep with Espeon begins. Trevenant was destroyed. Rest in peace, Harvest. I actually lied to you. There is no big sweep. He forfeit. Well, that's pretty much it for the episode, so be kind to one another. Don't forget to be awesome, and stay funky, my boys. Peace off.